Hey there, and welcome to Goddess on the Rise. I am your host, Sarah Berg, and this podcast is all about empowering women, living in your truth, loving your body as it is, in your journey to self-love. You can find this podcast to be real, raw, authentic, and truth. So buckle up, girlfriend, because we are going for a ride. Perfect. Okay, so today Peyton is back with us again. You guys might remember her from one of our episodes about potty. We did not talk about the potty. We talked about body positivity and like the opposite side of like plus size, like, you know, skinny shaming, which is a real thing. But today we're going to mix it up a little bit, and I would like to think that we're going to talk about something lighthearted, but really it's not.
It's not.
It's heavy. Like, I mean, if you think about it, so we're going to talk about military lifestyle. So Peyton, Lord bless me. I cannot talk today.
It's
like,
alright.
I'm just leaving that on there. Like, it's fine. Okay, her name's not Peyton. Like, I don't know what I was saying. Her name is Peyton. Most people call her Pay, like, right?
Yeah.
People call you Pay, right?
People call me Pay and P, and my grandpa calls me Paydy. It's really whatever.
Paydy. That's
yeah.
cool. Okay, cool.
Whatever you want
Alright.
to call me.
Okay, well, Peyton. I always call you Peyton. Anyways, so, like, military life. You've been in it for, like, how long now?
So as a child, I've been in.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about that part.
Mhm.
I always forget about that part.
So my biological dad was not in the military. My mom, married my stepdad, and he was Army infantry. And then,
Okay.
he's been in since I've known him, and I've known him since I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then he later on adopted me, but whatever, that's a different story.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Like, I have the same kind of situation.
Mhm.
Do you have a relationship with your biological father at all?
No.
Do you know him? Have you ever met him?
Yeah, I met him when I was my sophomore year of high school, but
Uh-huh.
other than that, I don't know him.
Okay.
He actually doesn't even know I'm married. I've been married for 3 years in
Wow.
August. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've been together for 4 years in
Wow.
August, or yeah, October.
Right.
we've been together
Okay.
for 4 years.
Yeah, so, like, my biological father, I'm pretty sure he just got out of jail not too long ago, actually, for arson for, like, the 100th time, I think.
For the 100th time.
So, he's psycho.
My biological dad is too.
Really? That's
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't know that about you. That's
Mhm.
really cool. A lot of people don't know that about me either.
Yeah.
That,
Everyone's really surprised. I think it's
Yeah.
because, like, my mom's side of the family is
Uh-huh.
so put together.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't want to sound like a prissy white bitch, but, like...
she went there.
But, like,
okay.
my grandparents used to be really poor, and
Uh-huh.
then my grandpa started working for Purdue University,
Okay.
because that's where I'm from,
Uh-huh.
and he became the director of ag, and
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and now he also is don't hate me, he's a lobbyist at the state house. So he, like, talks to people about what their politics are going to be like,
Okay.
and he tries to talk them into voting a certain way on bills.
Oh, wow.
But he doesn't do it in, like, a malicious, skeevy way. My grandpa's the sweetest person in the world.
Uh-huh.
He just really loves talking.
Mhm.
That's where I get it from. So he just loves going down there and, like, talking and actually knowing what people's opinions are
Yeah.
and seeing if he can sway them the other way, because he
Uh-huh.
just thinks it's fun. Like,
Yeah.
he's a really sweet guy. But they do now have money. So I had my mom, though. She
Yeah.
never had, like, has money from my grandparents.
Right.
She probably won't until, unfortunately, when they pass away.
Right.
But so I grew up on both sides. Like, my mom was very middle class, but her parents aren't middle class, and if they are, it's the high middle class where
Yeah.
you're almost not high. So no one really
Yeah.
knows that part about me, because they
Right.
just see
The
that
one side.
that one side. But yeah,
Sure.
my dad was abusive. My biological dad was abusive. Been in and out of jail, meth head. I grew up when my mom was with him, in the ghetto of Lafayette. But when they broke up and everything, we lived with my grandparents, and then my mom and my adopted dad got married, and
Sure.
yeah. But then it was middle class.
That's really interesting. It's kind of like the same thing with me. So, like, my mom finally divorced my biological father, and then eventually he gave up his rights, and then the guy that she married ended up adopting me, and I called him dad for the longest time, but then we had a very, very, very bad relationship. So I literally have nothing to do with him anymore. And so
Are they still married?
No.
Oh, okay.
But my mom, she remarried again, and bless your heart, Mom, you finally picked a good one. So, like, my stepdad now I call dad, and like, I mean, he's been such a blessing, like, for me to, like, kind of mend that bad, like, you know,
like, I still got my daddy issues,
right?
But
right.
I'm
a
definitely
real
not.
thing.
It is a real thing, but it's definitely not as bad as I think it would have been if my adopted dad did not come in the picture. I love him with my entire heart. Like, I would die for that man.
Right.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of daddy issues, have you ever gone to therapy for that?
Heck no.
Why?
Because it's just something that not the daddy issues that I've come to terms with, but from a young age, he was so, not in and out of my life, like he was with my older siblings.
Sure.
But for me, he was in my life when I was born, and then he left me on Christmas when I was 3 months old, which is fine. And then he came back in my life when I was 2, but I don't remember that. And then he came back into my life when I was in 1st grade. And then I had nothing to do with him until I was probably 16. And so for me, it was just kind of like when I was 3 years old, I told my mom, I was like, we don't need a man. I was 3, and I was like, Mom, we don't need a man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about finding the guy, because we don't need one.
Sure.
But then when she did find my adopted dad, I think just because him and I, from right off the bat, had such a good relationship, I don't think about my biological father, like, on a daily basis. I don't.
Okay.
I have never been like, I wonder what it would be like, because I don't care. I don't care.
I think that's really good that you have that, like, kind of emotional maturity. I know, like, for me, like, I thought I was good with everything, but, like, things just started, like, coming up, and I'm, like, not questioning it, but, like, having very, like, repressed thoughts and stuff. So, like, in case anybody doesn't know, if you are a military wife or a member, Military One Source, Google it. Just Google Military One Source. Give them a call. There's a 1-800 number. They don't judge. They're great. And they offer you free therapy. And they offer you a lot of resources on there for free, actually, which is great. And I feel like there's not enough people that know about that amazing military resource. But I have been to counseling, like, probably 3 or 4 times now. And they have covered it every time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I used
even couples counseling, just so you know.
Yeah. I used to have anger issues. Just like my biological dad. But even when, like, Bailey and I first got married, and so there was just a turning point where I was like, Peyton, you're toxic. Like, you cannot do this anymore. Wow. And that's just where it all changed. Like, if I get, I'm done. Yeah, if I get really, really frustrated, I think it's the communication between me and Bailey, where he's like, hey, like, don't get angry. Just like, tell me what's going on. But he's also had to figure out how to communicate better, because he used to, even if it upset me or it frustrated me, he would not try to make him invalid, but in his eyes, he didn't, because he didn't mean it that way, he didn't know why I was taking it that way. Right. And he'd be like, you shouldn't be upset about that. He wasn't trying to invalidate my feelings, but because he didn't mean it like that, he felt like it shouldn't have been perceived like that. So he's come a long way too with that. But I do want to start going to therapy.
I think it's a great idea.
Just because you can always make yourself better.
Yeah. And it's that's one of the things I really harp on. Like, everybody go to therapy. Like, there's so many things, there's reasons why you are the way you are, you do the things that you do, and it's because of things in your past that has made you who you are today. And not necessarily that you need to work through that or that you need to fix it or anything.
But you need to understand why.
Yeah. And I just think it's, like, something good. Like, I mean, when you are sick, you go to the doctor, right? Yeah. Why, when you're feeling some kind of mental health way, do you not go to a therapist?
Exactly.
It's the same exact thing. Like, I mean, even, like, you go to the doctor for checkups. You should go to the therapist for your checkups. Like, I've read a lot about, like, people that have been successful, and one of the things that they do is go to therapy. And honestly, like, even though I've been to therapy so many times, I feel like, you know, I still have so much I need to work on. Mm-hmm. But some of that stuff is really heavy. So, like, I haven't been to the therapy in, like, 2 or 3 weeks because I don't have time to process those emotions right now. Like, I'm school full-time. We're moving. You know, there's just so much going on. I can't do it right now. Yeah. But it's just total side little squirrel moment. But, like, I just think it's something that's very important, you know, to talk about. But, okay.
So, yeah, I've been doing this since I was 8.
Yeah.
And my dad went on deployment when I was 12. My mom had a 2-year-old with him at the time. And so it's very much different from when you are a kid versus when it's your spouse. Wow. I don't know how my mom took care of 2 kids 10 years apart. Like, she's a superhero. But yeah, so I've been doing it for a while. It also helps because Bailey was a Air Force brat. So
okay, that makes sense.
So we both had military background before him joining the military.
Okay, so
no, we weren't one of those couples that he joined the military and then 2 weeks later we got married. I knew him before he went to boot camp.
So that's really funny that you say that because I don't want to say like that's either, but I don't really give. If you are like that, no one cares.
No one cares. But that's really just the stereotypical. Yeah. Oh, they're 22. They probably had just met and got married.
Right. No. So with me and Chris, it's kind of funny because like we met. Well, okay, I'll spare you all the details. Well, if you guys have listened to my previous episodes, you already know. But like we met and then we met again, and we started dating, and then dated for like from January to March before he went to boot camp, and then he went to boot camp, and before he went to boot camp, he gave me a promise ring. And
Bailey did too.
Yeah. And we had only been like dating for like barely maybe like 2.5 months.
It's like when you know.
Yeah. So then like May he got out of boot camp. I visited him in Pensacola where he was at A school, and that's when he asked me to be his wife. Yeah, it was really cute. He like put it in the sand. It was so adorable. But he didn't ask my family or anything until we went home. And then that's when they're like, you know, survive this deployment. And yeah, like the answer is yes. So we did that, whatever. But
Bailey didn't ask my family. I just told them. I was like, we're getting married.
How long were you guys together before you guys got married?
So we started dating October 2nd of 2016, and we got married August 16th of 2017. So 10 months.
Wow. So that's like me and Chris. We got married at 11 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Okay, so like basically like moving on from that, what were like your emotions and stuff with like, did you guys always know Bailey was going into the military or?
Yeah, so when we first got together, he had been trying to get into the Air Force, but throwback to our last podcast, they told him he was too fat. Yeah, they were like, you weigh too much, like, you can't. Bailey was like, I promise you, when I get out of boot camp, I'm going to weigh exactly what you need me to weigh. And they were like, nope. So that was a struggle for a while, and then he didn't do well in college. He failed out after his first semester. And
what was he going to school for?
Sports management.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. But his professors didn't show up to classes.
Oh, no.
They would email him constantly saying that class was canceled. He had one professor whose wife gave birth, and he just, like, canceled class every day for the rest of the semester. And she gave birth in November.
Oh, my gosh,
Instead
that's
of
crazy.
Getting a sub to finish out the semester, he just
like,
canceled.
Done?
Yeah. And just scheduled everything online.
Oh,
and
no.
So... And I think going from high school to college was hard for him. So he got out, he left college, and then he got a job at Target, and then he was making really...
Target!
Yeah, I loved it. I got like 10% off every time I went in. It was great. But then his mom and him were watching The Last Ship. And his mom's like, why didn't you just join the Navy? And so Bailey went and talked to a recruiter. And I think that was probably in March. And he was shipped out to boot camp in May.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's really fast.
Yeah, it was really sad.
I bet. So you guys kind of had already planned that was going to happen, though. So, were you guys married when he went to boot camp?
No. So we were going to try to not get married. But one of my friends, her... now ex-husband, he was at boot camp at the same time, and she was telling me, I'm going to sound like a dependent, but she was telling me about like BAH and all that stuff and things like that. And So I was like, I think we're just going to kind of try and wait. And then when we realized that he was originally told Hawaii, I was like, there's no way with you still being in the barracks that you and I are going to be able to afford a place in Hawaii. If I'm already moving out there with you, we're practically going to be married without the title. Like, I'm going to be at all of these things. We might as well just get married. And then that way we don't have to worry about money. And we don't have to worry about, like, the healthcare and stuff like that. And I basically proposed to him while he was at boot camp. We were on our phone call.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was like, no, I think it's a great idea. And then it got moved to Washington. And we were like, well, it's really expensive out there. There's no way. And when I realized how hard it was to find a job here on Whidbey, I was like, there's no way. And he was like, yeah, I think it's a great idea. He's like, if you're already going to move with me, we already see a long-term future together. Why not get married? And so he graduated boot camp. He went to Pensacola for C school. He was undes. And then he came home, and he got home August 15th, and August 16th we were married, and then he came to Whidbey August 26th.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so it's just like, so like he's been in, we talked like 2.5 years, right? Yeah, almost 3. And it's like, I think a lot of people just assume, and I don't understand why. I guess I never assumed this, but that like the military makes a lot of money.
I know. Why do people think
that?
I think it's because we work for the government, and so they, like, the military is the government, so they think that we get a lot. But Bailey did the math, and if this would be a regular job and he would be paid hourly, he would get $3 an hour.
Yeah. Exactly.
$3.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why do you get free housing and blah, blah, blah.
It's not free.
Like, Bailey earns the BH he gets.
Yeah. Like, if like, that's what people don't understand. Like, if you add in, like, what they get paid plus the BAH, like, you're still way under what normal people get paid. I think with what Bailey makes now and BAH, we make under $3,000. I mean, that's for a month because BAH is split. Yeah. But, I mean, it's just crazy. Other people, they I know their paychecks are like $1,500, $1,600 every 2 weeks. Yeah. And so they're making $3,000 a month. Yeah. And I'm like, so housing out here is way expensive. It's hella just expensive. Like, it's scary. And like the groceries out here are high. We don't get what's called cola. Like, wait, do we get cola here? Isn't it like $20 for cola a month? What is cola? What? Okay, like, so like when you go to like a place that's really, really expensive, like Hawaii, you get money to like live off for like groceries and stuff. Like we don't get that, right? That's BAS. Oh, it's Base Assistant Services or something like that. We do get it, and I think it's a part of the BAH. Like, I think they factor it in the BAH or in the paycheck. Because I thought with even living in when we did live in base housing, that we still got BAS, but it was in his paycheck. Yeah, that's crazy. So, like, you know, like with BAH, like, so me and Chris, we live in military housing. We don't see BAH. Which, like, I think is ridiculous, because if you look at the lease, house is a month is cheaper than what your BAH actually is. So here's where it's messed up. So in my house that we live in, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Well, 1.5 bath. Yeah. And I was trying to think if you had even more upstairs. That's why I made that face. I was like, could have sworn. Yeah, we have a bathroom upstairs. And so it's funny because, like, there's different ranks, like E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. So Chris is an E5, and he just made rank, like, I think it was like 2 years ago. Okay, this is where it's fucked up, right? So he just made rank 2 years ago, and then when he became an E4? E5. Okay. And then he didn't see that pay for E5, so he was doing the job of an E5, but didn't see that pay for a whole year. That's insane to me, because Bailey, when he made E4... But he got mapped. No, it wasn't considered a map, because they just had to say that he didn't have to take the test. He still... they had to go through a different procedure, because it wasn't a technical map. But maybe that's why he got it a little bit faster, because he didn't have to take the test. So when Chris was mapped to E4, and so for anybody who doesn't understand what that means, map means that they gave him E4. Which,
they didn't have to take a test.
Yeah, so E1, E2, that's just different ranks. So just think of it as, like, different jobs, like a promotion type of thing.
Yeah, E1 through E3 is, like, they're just airmen is what they're called. They don't have any, they're not a petty officer. Yeah. They're kind of like when you start at a new job, they're just the newbies, basically. Right.
So I get really confused with this part. So E4 is a third class. Okay. Yeah. So Chris is a second class petty officer. So like there's different, like you just like you keep going up in ranks or whatever. So when he made rank to E4, he was mapped, which means they gave him the promotion. He got the pay immediately. Okay. But when he went to E5, he took the test. He passed the test. And like here's where it's really fucked up in like military life. I want to say like first off, like I do not know everything about military life, so like I could be wrong about some of these things, like, but as far as what my understanding is with the test, like you could, maybe you know, I don't know, but from what I'm hearing is like there's, when you take a test like in each rate to like rank up, and the rate means like that's what their job is. So our husbands are AOs, so that's
aviation ordnance.
Thank you. I always say airman ordnance.
They're called ordnance men.
Yeah.
That's what they're called. But, like, the job is aviation ordnance.
Yeah. I don't know anything about anything half the time.
Bailey says it so much, I've just retained.
Yeah. So, when they take the test and in their rate, it is, like, there's only a small percentage that will pass, right?
Yeah,
like,
they have...
It's like a 20% sometimes, or like...
They come out with quotas. Yeah. And it'll tell you, like, only 20% of AOs are going to get ranked after this. You can pass the test, and you still won't get ranked. Yeah. But I think if you pass and you still don't go up your rank, they give you points.
Yes.
They give you points that'll be added
your next test. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, craziness. But Chris was mapped to E4, right? He wasn't even E4 for that long before he got mapped to E5, or before he made E5.
Yeah, because
I don't even think he was for a year. He wasn't even.
Bailey didn't have to take the test, because there was like a new procedure that they could do. But when he ranked up to E4, that happened in July, and then in September he was already taking the second class test. But he hadn't gone to C school yet, so he's like, I don't know anything really. Right. But he didn't do too bad. He didn't pass, but he didn't do too bad for the first test. And the next one's this month or next month.
Oh wow, that's exciting for him. Nice. So the thing that Chris passed the test for E5, and then he was doing that job immediately.
Yeah, they switched it,
And then he didn't even get paid for like a year for that job.
And then because he's been in for another year, the pay increased because it increases with every year you've been in. But I don't think it's by a lot. I think at most it's $100.
So I think his pay increased maybe by like $50, which I mean, that's great. And I
any little bit helps.
Like, you don't want to sound like you're complaining, but at the same time, like, my husband works all the time. He deploys all the time. He's gone all the time. I don't see him half the time. And this is where I think it becomes really hard for military families. So, like, I feel, like, very blessed in, like, the job that I've had, like, nursing. Like, you can choose whether or not you're PRN, which means, like, as needed, or you can choose to work full-time or part-time, depending on your job. So, once Chris got home, like... and I knew he was going to be home for a while, I went PRN. Like, I wanted to be home with him. And I think that was great. But, like, a lot of places don't always have that. A lot of people don't always have that option. So, like, if the spouse wants to work, there's going to be, like, that disconnect. Like, so, like, with you and Bailey, like, you work, and you work part-time, right?
Yeah, I work part-time, but it's, I probably work anywhere between 20 and 30 hours a week. Yeah. Depending on how much corporate wants to give us hours, because I work in retail. But I work either in the morning where I open, so I have to be there at 9:30 and I'll work till 6, or I'll close. And sometimes that shift can be from noon to 8:30, or it can be a 4:30 to 8:30, 5:30 to 8:30 shift, just depending. So it just gets kind of complicated because he works nights, and so he goes into work he leaves our house at 2:00, so he gets to work at 2:10, and then I usually don't see him until 11 because they have to work 8-hour shifts. But because he's night check and they don't have a relief like night check is for day check,
those get screwed.
Yes, and so I don't usually see him. Sometimes I think last night he came home at 12:30, which was pretty early for what it usually is. Sometimes he doesn't come home until 2:00, 2:30 in the morning.
For real. Mm-hmm. It's just like very frustrating. Like, you know, when you talk about the pay and when you talk about the hours worked. And the one thing, like, I always get so frustrated is, like, that dependa term.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, if you're not associated with the military, you don't know what we're talking about. There's, like, a term for women. And I think it started off as, like, I don't know, it started off where, like, a woman would sit at home and, like, wear her husband's rank and would collect the paychecks and just sit at home, watch TV all day and never, like, clean or cook or anything like that. Like, they just spent all the money. I think that's where it, like, was coined from. Yeah. Like, it's very derogatory. But, like, I have also seen people, like, put other women down for, like, saying, like, wearing shirts that say Proud Navy Wife. Mm-hmm. But, like, I am a proud Navy wife.
Exactly.
But, like, it's just like my husband is a proud nurse husband.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not like it's any different. Like, you celebrate outside of the military world. Like, you celebrate someone making a promotion.
Yeah.
Just like you were, like, if you do that in the military world, though, I feel like it's, like, very, like, taboo. Like, oh my God, like, you can't wear your husband's rank. Like, shut up, Sally, I'm not doing that, you know? Like,
exactly.
I'm just celebrating for him. Or, like,
or the ones that irritate me are where probably dependa was coined from, but they're the women who go through the gate, and if their husband's an officer and they're not with their husband, and
I've heard of that.
The MAs don't salute, they're like, why aren't you saluting me? My husband is an officer. And it's like,
I bet you that one person did that. Mm-hmm. And then it was, like, ruined for everybody. Like, it became a big thing because one person did that.
But it must happen a lot because I've seen a ton of TikToks and they're like, this actually happened to me at the gate.
Shut the front door.
I mean, obviously...
Okay, Karen, sit down.
Right. I mean, obviously, it's the internet, so we don't know if they're just making it up. Mm-hmm. But, my husband's an E3, or an E4. He's a petty officer 3rd class. He's the lowest you can get for petty officers, but I'm so super proud of him because he works so hard.
Right.
And if someone's like, oh, what rank is your husband? Oh, he's a 3rd class. There's nothing wrong with expressing that, like, oh, hey, he got mapped. He's now a 2nd class.
Yeah.
This is so exciting, because it is exciting.
Yeah.
Because as they get higher up, one, yes, the pay does increase, which is nice because it's a struggle sometimes. Yeah. And then 2, it means that he's doing so good at his job, he's able to move up in rank, and he gets these more responsibilities, and he's in charge of people. It's like getting a promotion, like you said, at work. It's where, you know, someone goes from being just a regular person to an assistant manager or a manager, and then working their way up to CEO and things like that.
Yeah,
which is why I don't understand why it's such a big deal to be proud of what your spouse is doing. Because I can't just say husband, because... Right. But it is different because spouses who are... The wife is in the military and their husband is not in the military, there's nothing for them. Right. Like, what about if they don't work? Are they a dependo?
No. Like, I mean, you never hear about anything like that. Yeah. And it's just really frustrating. Like, you know, like, the feeling like the proud Navy wife and all that kind of stuff. Like, all those terms and all that crap. But whatever. It's so frustrating. But, like, just kind of, like, those are, like, some of kind of the downsides to military life. But, like, that, I mean, like, that's not even all of it. Like, I think that when you, like, live this lifestyle, like, there's a lot of hard things, and like I'm sure there's resources out there, like the Military One Source, like, that's a great resource, but not everybody knows about that. Yeah. And it's like, when you become a wife to someone in the military or a husband to someone in the military, they don't just like give you a handbook saying like this is how it should be and like here's your resources and if you need help this is what you get, you know, like it's not like that at all.
You have to find it like through the grapevine.
Oh my gosh, and it's so frustrating because one of like my biggest frustrations right now is moving.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're moving to Fallon, Nevada, and it's not fun because we're technically March 13th, we will be homeless. Mm-hmm. We have nowhere to live. And housing in Fallon there's places that are trashy and we may just have to live there and like bite the bullet, but like obviously it's not safe. And, you know, if they have like mold issues or whatever the hell, you know, I mean, you can get really sick from that. And unfortunately, there is no military housing down there that is open. Yeah. Like, you have to become on this wait list. And right now, we're number 37, which sounds great. But, like, they're renovating houses.
You forever
exactly. To move up. Like, is basically they told us don't count on military housing. So, when you go into military housing, you don't have to pay a security deposit. You don't have to pay a pet deposit. And they automatically take your rent from your BAH. So, one of the funny things that I find, like, very frustrating is that, like, we have lived here when Chris was an E4 and now he's an E5. So they automatically take the E4 BAH and now they automatically take the E5 BAH. So, like, I mean, someone can live in the same exact house as an E1 and pay, like...
the same amount.
The lower amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're paying the way higher amount. But we can't qualify for a bigger house. We can't qualify for anything better.
So, actually, fun fact... When Bailey checked off that we want it as soon as possible, you can get into officer housing if that's the first available.
Yes, so that can be the good part of it.
But what's the struggle is what you were saying is when Bailey and I first moved here, he called a month or 2 months in advance and said that I'd be moving in September. And we were like 72 on the list. But we had moved up to, I think, 52 by the time I moved out here. So we luckily found an apartment that was leased for 6 months. And so we just had to let them know that this was when our lease was up and a house was available. The thing that sucks is when it says on your lease that the going rent rate, if it wasn't base housing for the house you were in, is $900. Why is the whole BH taking away? I would understand if it was a place like Indiana or the Midwest where things are on the cheaper side, but Washington's prices almost compare to Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And in Hawaii, if they live in base housing, they still get BAH. They get their difference, I'm pretty sure. My friend moved from Hawaii and said crazy. They still got BAH.
That's nuts. Maybe she's thinking of COLA, though, because I know COLA's a thing there, too.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, who knows? But, like, I mean, that is, like, one of the frustrating things. And, I mean, now what me and Chris are looking at, since we can't get into base housing, is that we have to pay a security deposit, a pet deposit, and first month's rent. And that's going to be due all at the same time. So we're talking $3,000 to $4,000 we have to come up on our own. And military does not pay for that.
No.
And I think that's where people really get it twisted. So, like, on our own, we have to save up that much money. And that's where I become, like, so frustrated with the military life. Like, we didn't choose to move. Like, we're being forced to move. I'm losing my job. Like, it's really funny because, like, when I was in Virginia Beach, my husband deployed from Virginia Beach to VP9. But we decided to go home first for 30 days of leave because we were detaching from that command. And since I chose to go home for his deployment, because it wouldn't make no sense for us to go from Virginia Beach to Iowa for his leave, then for me to go back to Virginia Beach, and for him to go to Washington to fly out to Kadena, and then for me to go from Virginia Beach to Washington. That wouldn't make any sense. No. It's a lot of back and forth. It costs way, way more. So because I decided to quit my job, even though my husband was deploying and then we were going straight to Washington, they said I didn't qualify for unemployment. Because I chose to quit and go home. I could have stayed in Virginia Beach and worked for like another 4 months before I went back to Washington. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. The thing that, like, I don't want people to be like, well, I mean, paying out first month's rent and a security deposit and a pet deposit shouldn't be the Navy's responsibility.
But it should.
But
they're forcing us to move.
And the other thing is, well, what I hear is you guys signed up. He signed up for the Navy. He knows that he's going to move. The thing that makes it insane is we get BAH to cover living off of base. So you would think if you can't have animals on base and they still take your full BAH, that when you have an animal and you're moving and you're forced to live in an apartment because they don't have base housing ready and available, that they would do the security deposit and that they would do the pet deposit because you can't get into base housing. And it's not like you were moving in a month.
Not to live on base housing, you know.
And it's not like you try to schedule this a month before you moved.
Right.
We get orders 6 to 8 months in advance. And
because Chris got his orders at the end of October.
So almost 5 months before you had to leave. So 6 to 8 months before deployment, or not deployment, the move, your orders change. And you are instantly trying to get in contact with these people. Yeah. The problem is a lot of times they don't like to answer the phone.
Oh my God.
That's the problem. It's so hard, especially if it's the one that's in charge here. They don't like picking up the phone. I don't know what it is. They don't like to be any help, and no one knows the right answer, and it's just this flip
back
around.
And forth, back and forth.
And you don't get help, and it's like, if we're allowed to have animals on base, in base housing, and we have to put down a security deposit and first month's rent because you guys don't have room for us on base for base housing, then it should be comped.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah. Or at least the security deposit.
Yeah.
You know, because, right at
the
this
pet deposit's not, that expensive.
I mean, it's us, we choose to have pets. Yeah. So, I get that, and I understand that. But it's me and Chris did not choose our orders. We were told where we're going. Sometimes you get early look, first look, second look. Do you get third look? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But Chris has put in for several different places, and we did not choose Fallon, Nevada. It was never on our list, and that's what we got. Yeah. So you get voluntold where to go, and it's really frustrating for, some people, you lose your job, as the spouse. I had to quit my job. It was not my choice.
That's why I haven't pursued teaching anymore, because...
You can't just, move and teach. That's impossible. No. But... with nursing, Virginia was a compact state, so I was good with my Iowa license. And because we were military, they didn't make me, fill out any paperwork or anything. It didn't cost anything, but Washington is not that way. So I paid over $500 the last 2 years for, to bring my license over here and then, keep my license current. And the problem that I have is, I just found out before we're going to Nevada that there's a program that covers those costs. Yeah. I did not know that. How, this is where I get very frustrated with the military. How do you know these things? How do you know these programs and stuff are out there if no one's telling you? That's ridiculous, right?
I found out because of other spouses. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's through the grapevine. And it just pisses me off because that's not the way it should be, Yeah.
And that's one thing, quick side note, being president of the Family Readiness Group, I am trying to start, it was Becca's idea. I will give her credit for it because it was definitely her idea. But I am trying to continue with her idea and make a spouse sponsorship program. Yeah. So for the people who aren't military affiliated, I don't know if it's for every branch, but for the Navy, when they come to a new place, the sailor gets a sponsor, and it's just someone else in their command that shows them around and does different things.
We don't have that already?
Spouses? Mm-mm.
Oh, spouses. You're right. Yeah. The military member does. The military spouses. Wow, that's brilliant. Spouses. So that's a really good plan. I know I would love that.
Yeah. And so you do have to go to a class for it, but one of the things Becca and I had kind of brainstormed, and she came up with it, and I thought it was a great idea, And if Bailey wants to be a sponsor and then I'm also a spouse sponsor, then we just help out the family that's coming.
Oh, that's cool.
That way, if they're not for sure about things, the wife or husband is also getting information from a spouse.
Yeah.
And then they know a spouse here.
Yeah.
And it's not so hard, like, when you're at your pre-deployment briefing and they're like, don't feel like you're alone because you're not. And you're like, I've never seen you before in my life.
Yeah.
You've never talked to me. I don't know who you are.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to at least steer away from while I'm president for VP9's Family Readiness Group. Because if you have to find out things through spouses should be ready and available.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that. I mean, that's great. I think there is a lot of resources out there, and we just don't know about them. And I feel like that's not fair, and that makes it so much harder. And I don't mean to be talking bad about the military, because there's been a lot of great things that have come about with Chris's career in the military. And I mean, there's so much good. I've made so many friends. We've traveled to so many places, and I think that's great. But I think the one thing is that everybody, just thinks that, like, oh, the military gets paid so good. Oh, they get free insurance. Oh, they get this. Oh, they get that.
But the free insurance comes with a price to pay. Like,
I mean,
like I was saying, like,
I don't get free insurance. He does. We pay.
I don't.
Well, because I'm on standard.
Oh, I'm on Prime.
Yeah. But still, like, if you're
I pay for dental and I pay for my eye care, but I don't have to pay for doctors.
Right. But, like, if you're on Prime, like, that's a whole nother situation, right? Like,
I can't go off base. I have to be referred from the base doctors out of base. Yeah, it's a freaking mess.
I was on Prime for the longest time. Yeah. It was awful. I never had the same doctor because my doctor kept leaving.
Because they kept leaving. Yeah. They get PCS'd.
It's a pain in the ass. Like, so you have to explain your situation all over again. Total side note there. But, I mean, anyways, there's just a lot of good about the military, but I think that there's a lot of things that people don't understand if they haven't lived, like, this lifestyle. And it changes all the time.
It does.
It changes all the time.
Your friends are coming in and out constantly of your life. I don't see Bailey very often. Like, I get him for a couple hours in the morning, and then if I stay up late, I get to see him. But other than that, if I don't have a weekend off, I don't see him.
Yeah. And that was, like, one of the biggest problems when me and Chris were in Virginia Beach, and I was working for this amazing pediatric clinic. I loved it there, but I was working full-time, and so it was Monday through Friday automatically. And then it was like, I think it was 2 Saturdays a month. It was maybe 1 or 2 Saturdays a month. I can't remember. But it never failed. It always was like the opposite weekend that Chris was on or off. So at that point, like, we had just discussed, like, our finances and everything. And we were like, it's probably best if I just continue to work at home, stay at home, and then just work like 3 days a week. Yeah. And that was it. Yeah. And that, I mean, that helped. And then when I came here,
it's hard to find a job anyway on the island.
Oh my gosh, it is. I ended up finding a nursing job, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be PRN, and that was great. But then I saw OBGYN and, like, their team, and I just was obsessed with how they worked. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go full time. And that was great for a little bit. And then I never saw Chris, and Chris was like, yeah, we're not doing this. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen you. I miss you. Like, like, I would leave the house at 6 a.m., not get back till, like, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Some nights, even later. And that's when we decided it was just best if I went PRN. And with all the family that I had visiting stuff, it was the best decision I had made. So it's just, like, it's very hard. Like, military lifestyle is very, very hard. And I don't think people, like, see that side of it. And, there's so many, like, it's such a good job for Chris, but, like, at the same, like, it's a safety net. Well, and because, like, you're automatically going to get paid. Like, you don't get laid off.
That's the nice thing is you automatically
job
get paid.
Security.
The only thing that sucks is if something happens, and let's say it's not your fault, but you were there, you can get your pay docked, where they can do you, like, a rank lower than what you actually are for pay and cut that in half. So if you are making $1,300 every 2 weeks, that could go down to, like, $600.
Right.
They can dock your pay for whatever reason they feel like, if they think you're not doing a good job.
Right.
And but there is that safety net, and the healthcare, even if you do have to pay it, it's not completely expensive, which is nice, but it does take a toll on marriages, and that's why so many people get divorced, because
I feel that. I do.
Like, Bailey goes on deployment every year. Got back in April.
Yeah. He leaves in October.
He got back in October. He leaves in October. Got back. He'll get back in April. The following year, he'll leave in April. And it's like, And he'll do that until he gets shore duty, where he doesn't deploy, but then they go on detachments, and they're usually out on detachments longer than they are on sea duty, and it does take a toll, and I don't think people understand that it's not this glamorous lifestyle at all. It gets so hard to plan to go home, who you're going to see, and the thing that bothers me is you can go home, you can pay, I think, thousands of dollars to come home. And people will be like, when are you coming to see me? And it's like, I've been on a plane all day. Bitch, I just paid
all this money. Like, you sit down.
Yeah, you can come and see me.
You can come me. Yeah.
Like,
that drives me insane.
Yeah.
My friends, like, I have a lot of amazing friends back home, but there was a while that there was, like, a certain someone that would be like, oh, you want to go here with me? You want to go here with me? And it's, like, 45 minutes away. And I'm like, I just drove like 16 hours. Like, you can come over to my house and we can chill. Yeah. Like, I'm exhausted. This is supposed to be my vacation. I don't need to be driving around even more, you know? Yeah. Like, it's just
or, like, give me a couple of days to
Yeah. They don't understand that, though. Yeah. Because, like, they don't live that lifestyle. Yeah. Like, they're just like, oh, you're going to come home. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And, like, the time goes by so fast when you're home. Like, it's unreal. You blink and it's gone. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, like, trials after trials living like military life. But like, I guess like the whole point of this podcast was I just wanted people to like see like an inside of like the hard parts. And I want people to know, like, when they say, well, you signed up for this life.
I hate that.
It's bullshit.
Hate that. It's like,
I didn't sign up for it. Actually, my husband signed up for it. And how the hell was I supposed to know what it was like?
Yeah. And like,
they're like, yeah, you deploy. Yeah, you go. You don't know what comes with that.
No one knows. Unless you're in the military life, you don't know what deployment
pissed me off so
is like.
Bad.
Like, when everyone's like, oh, it'll be nice to, like, when he goes on detachment for a week and a half, it'll be nice to just have a little alone time, you know? When my husband goes on business trips, I'm so excited to get the house to myself and kind of do girl
business
things.
Trips. I just want to, like, punch someone when they say that, like, as if it's the same thing.
And I'm like, you don't know what my husband's doing. I don't know what my husband's doing. Things are top secret. Like, you can't just...
They're messing with bombs. Like, are you dumb?
Like, the places they go are not always the safest.
I know.
It's so bad. We have OPSEC. Like, we're not even allowed to talk about where they go.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Linda, but, like, your husband going to Texas for 2 days on a business trip is not the same as my husband leaving me for 6 months to go to a country that's not even close to me on an opposite schedule. So when I'm going to bed, he's waking up.
Yes.
Like, it's completely different.
Yeah, totally.
And until you know what it's like, you can't be like, oh, well, you signed up for this. Because just because I married him.
No, I did not.
And, like, in a way, yes, I did sign up for this. It doesn't make, though, the feelings I'm feeling any less valid. Just because I signed up for this doesn't mean that I'm not sad that he's leaving.
But, like...
And not enjoying the time. I knew what came with this.
Yeah.
But, like, the feelings...
They're still there.
They're still there.
And what the hell does you signed up for this even mean?
Right?
Like, do you even know what you're saying when you say that? Like, I did not sign up for being lonely and break-ins and shootings and wondering if my husband's okay. I did not sign up for that. You don't know about that.
Yeah.
Until, like, sure, they tell you, like, your husband's gonna deploy.
Yeah.
But, like,
and, like, they
how do you even know what that is? Like, how do you even know, like, how that's going to affect your family or anything until you actually go through it. Like,
and you don't know the things that happen on deployment. Like, the stereotypes of people cheating a lot.
Oh my God. Like, prostitutes and all that.
Yeah. Like, it is very real. Like, people do cheat on others on deployment. Like, that aspect is very real.
Yeah.
And not saying that everyone should have to worry about it because, we have great husbands.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those things where it's like, these people probably haven't gotten any for like 3 months now. Like, what are you doing over there? And it's a constant fear of, are you going to be okay? Do I need to be worried about anything? But no one tells you.
Or how about, like, not hearing from them for, like, 12 hours? Like, or when the internet goes down, or when they have the blackout periods, like, not being able to talk to your husband.
And, like,
oh my God. Like,
I don't want people to be like, well, the people that do know what we're talking about, like, well, you're with the VP squadron, like, they're not on a boat.
Yeah.
But, like, and I do feel for the people that are on a boat.
Well, Chris has been on a boat before.
I've never experienced boat life.
Oh my God. You don't want to go there.
I don't want to.
No. Like, they have blackout periods where they don't have... Actually, my girlfriend's husband is deployed right now, and he actually gets to use the computer and emails her all the time. Like, that's really cool. Yeah. Because Chris was not able to do that. We spent probably like $100 to $200 on phone cards. Yeah. Like, we would literally buy phone cards to get a phone call. And I remember, like, at the time I was working at this nursing home back home, and everybody that I was working with there was amazing. Like, my phone was always on loud, and it was always on my med cart. And they would answer it for me, and they would let me go take a break immediately. It didn't matter when it was. They were just like, go, take the call, get out of here, like, do what you need to do. And
that's how Hollister was when I worked for them.
It was so wonderful. I felt so appreciated, and it was great. Like,
I loved working for Hollister, and when they knew that he was going to boot camp, my managers loved Bailey. Mm-hmm. And so anytime a Chicago number popped up, they let me go to the back and talk to him. And they let me talk to him for as long as I wanted. And if it was going to be a long time, I'd clock out, and then I would just stay over, like, my shift. But they were, if they knew he was probably going to call on Saturdays, I wasn't scheduled on Saturdays.
That's awesome.
So it was amazing, and they were extremely great about it. But there's some people that aren't, that are like, this is a military town, you know it's military, like, chill. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing, like, I don't think anyone realizes that you look forward to those phone calls.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because that's the only thing, like, I'm so thankful we have FaceTime, because, like, that's the only thing that you can do at this point is to FaceTime and, like, just see how they're doing. And it's rough. Like, you for sure I don't think people understand that there's just this loneliness for 6 months. Some people it's longer. Like, oh my god, my dad, he could be, when he was in the Army, he was on deployment one time for like 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
Without coming home once. Like, can you imagine 18 months?
And can we talk about that ship that was out for like, how many months was it? 10 months? And like, people were having to ship them like feminine products and stuff like that because they ran out. Yeah. Like, that is... Yeah. Oh my gosh, bless their hearts. Anyways, I feel like we talked a lot of shit about the military, and I don't want it to sound like that. No. It's just, I think people don't understand how rough it can be. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like that all the time, because when it's good, it's good.
I'm very blessed for a lot of the things that they offer. Yes. Bailey gets free college, and there's just there is a lot of good things that come out of it. Amazing things. But people already know those good things.
Yeah, and I think that's all they see sometimes.
But it's so much more. Like,
yeah. Okay, so let's name a couple good things that you love about the military. What are your pros, I should say? So, what are your pros? Like, we talked a lot about our cons. And if you guys can hear that noise in the background, it's called
those jets. Those are lovely jets.
Hello, freedom, you know.
That's the sound of freedom, actually. Yes. So I think my pros is the traveling. Like, as stressful as moving can be,
I basically cry myself to sleep every night right now.
You get to see so many great places. Like, when in my life would I have ever come to Whidbey Island, Washington?
I have no idea. Never. I didn't even know it was a thing.
I couldn't even pronounce it when I first got here. I was like, Whidbey? Like, I was like, what is
Whidbey? I'm a Whidbey?
I know. I had no idea.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Washington is so beautiful. There's so many beautiful places and all those fun things. So the travel is great. And if they do go to nice places, like, when they did go to Italy, we could go see them. Which it was 96 hours.
Just so everybody knows, that's on our own dime. Yeah. Like, we don't just get to go on deployment. You pay for your own hotel, pay for your own flight and all that kind of stuff. But
they do allow that time. And I think that's fantastic. Absolutely. Is that we get to go see them. Because, I mean, I didn't get to go see Bailey during that time.
It's really expensive. Like, don't know why. Like,
but, like, actually, like, at least having that option to go see him. Yes. Was good. That was really nice. Yeah. The traveling, great. And then I would say, though, as much as base housing isn't taken care of, and how much that it's hard, like with how hard it is in some places to get into base housing, it is nice knowing that, like, on base they have a hotel that's cheaper, and that once you get into base housing, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, you call someone, and it might take them a couple weeks to get out there, but it'll be fixed. Right. Or if, but you will have a roof over your head. Yes. And that's the nice thing. I don't like that black mold is not being taken serious. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's really messed up, honestly.
And how maintenance thinks wood doesn't mold.
Okay, I haven't told anybody about that yet, but yesterday maintenance came out. We're in base housing, right? And it has been such a great time with base housing. We actually have never had any issues with it. It's been great the whole entire time we've been here. But I hear horror stories about moving out of base housing, right? So, it has been very interesting what they have told me I had to fix in the house. And, like, the biggest thing is that we have a pet and we have to pay $250 to get the carpets cleaned. Kind of find that bullshit. They don't tell you that when you move in either. They don't tell you that. I didn't even know about it until my pre-inspection. So I thought that was kind of shitty. Like, my pre-inspection was in February.
Yeah, it's like a month before you leave.
What happens to a person that lives paycheck to paycheck?
So me and Bailey?
Yeah, like...
I think when we got our carpets cleaned, we had just gotten paid. Military
thank
just
God for
gotten
that.
paid. And it was only, I think, $100 or $100. It was a $50 deposit, and then it was $100 extra dollars. But if we had canceled on it, then they would have kept the 50 or something. I think the 50 went into helping us pay off.
Gotcha.
But it was but yeah, like going paycheck to paycheck, it's rough because when we were looking at the list that they give,
oh my gosh,
for 5, so you know the metal
outlet
plates that are around the stove, the drip dishes. So on their list, they have for like 5 of them $45. Okay, people, $45 freaking dollars. You go to Walmart and they have 5 drip pans for $12.
Oh, that's a good idea. So now I don't have to go scrub them. I'll pay $12 for them instead of scrubbing them.
But they give you a list.
Kind of lazy.
They give you a list. Yeah. And everything's so... It's like the hospital paying you $20 for a Band-Aid. Like, that's what it's like. And it's like, no, you can go... We went to Home Depot for the outlet plastic things that go over. Because one of ours had broken. And they wanted $10 for it. We got one for 50 cents at Home Depot. The exact same one that they needed.
Gosh. So we never had any outlet covers on any of ours. Any of our outlets. Never had outlet covers when we moved in. Yeah. I told her that. So I'm interested to see if they're going to charge us for that.
For putting them up?
Yeah.
They shouldn't because they're supposed to be covered in case of water damage.
But like, I'm saying like, you know, so like right now, I don't have an outlet cover in there.
No.
Are you talking about this?
I'm talking about the plastic piece.
Okay. I thought you meant the little tiny pieces.
No.
I was like, we didn't have the... Okay, gotcha.
Those broke. One of ours broke. I think it was when we were moving a couch.
Okay. That makes more sense. I was like, what? Like, that little tiny plastic
piece? And they wanted like $10 or $15 for that box. And Bailey and I went to Home Depot and we got one for like 50 cents. And it wasn't like on sale or anything. It's usually just 50 cents.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you going to charge someone $45 for drip pans when they're $12? So we were like...
For the installation, you know, because it costs so much it takes like 5 minutes to change a drip pan in all 4, you know?
Yeah, like come on. It takes so long that we have to charge for it. And so Bailey and I paid out of pocket for... I mean, it was going to be cheaper that way than like having to pay later. But still, I'm like, why? Why are you going to charge $45?
Yeah.
For drip pans.
Right. They charge like outrageous things. So like for our carpets are 8+ years old. Well, now they're 10 years old. From our knowledge. And when we moved in, they told us that our carpets, don't worry about replacing them, don't worry about cleaning them or anything like that. You can pretty much do whatever because we're going to replace them anyways. Yeah,
that's what I was told. If it's 8+ years, they have to get replaced anyway.
Now maintenance is all wish-washy on me, saying like, oh no, that's not a law. And same with housing. They're saying that's not a law. That renters don't have to replace the carpets. If it's still in good condition, they'll leave it. Okay, here's the problem. If it's not in good condition, we'll get charged like over $1,000 to replace it because we have upstairs and downstairs that's...
Are you freaking kidding me?
I'm not. Plus on top of the carpet cleaning fee. Oh, and they said that they will have to replace it if they find the urine crystals I was telling you about earlier. Yeah. So they lift up the carpet. So when I called called maintenance... Because this is what housing told me. I called maintenance and they said, what are you talking about? Like, what are urine crystals? So, like, that's, like, one of the stupidest things about moving out of housing is because, like, everybody's information is, like, all over the place. Like, it's the stupidest thing ever.
No one, that's the struggle is I think everyone thinks moving from base housing to base housing is going to be so simple, but it's not. Like, they will charge you outrageous amount of money, and then if you can't pay it, they'll come up with a payment plan for you. But you have to pay that every month. So not only if you can't get into base housing, are you paying with your BAH to live somewhere else, but now you're also paying out of pocket to fix things, which I get it. It's like renting or whatever.
Yeah, I understand if we ruin things, like, we'll pay for it. Of course, like. But, like, it's just me and my husband. We don't do anything crazy. And
why
our dog,
are you charging $45 for drip pans? Like, that's the thing that irritates me is $45 for drip pans. Like, you just want money. Like, you're going to take all of our BAH. If you tell me that our house is only worth $830, then the extra BAH should be going for, like, other things. So, in case we do have this overfee, like, oh, you guys, you've been here for a year, so you have this extra. Don't worry about it, and you get, like, your money back or something. Why are you taking my whole BAH? If that's something that we're allotted and you're telling me the house isn't even worth that much, where's the rest of my BAH going?
Okay, here's one thing. Like, okay, after this is our, like, last vent thing, and I'll do my pros too. But, like, one of the things that's really frustrating to me is, like, so the average, so, like, the sailor that's not married, they do not get BAH.
Unless they make second class. Then
they get BAH?
So, in, I think it's even third class. All they have to do is
apply,
fill out paperwork, and if the command is able to with third classes, then they'll allot them BAH. But as a second class, you can file for BAH. SPAC had BAH since he was a third class, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow. So, I just, like, don't want anybody to get twisted because he kept saying, like, our BAH, and, like, that it reminds me of, like, that dependent thing, but like that's not true. Like, once you're married, that's when you get once you get BAH, like, that's when you're married, you get it.
Like, and Bailey, I say our because Bailey and I are very much like, I work, and so when I get paid, we both believe, like, my paycheck and his paycheck is our money because it's going to things that we both need. We need food, we need to pay these bills.
Same with me and Chris. Like, both of our money gets deposited into the same account. Like, it's not his money or my money. It's our money. And that's the way we see it. And that's why I was like, with the whole dependent thing, I'm like, it's so stupid, you know? Yeah. How can a working wife or someone, like, even if you're a stay-at-home wife, whatever, you know, and you're cooking and you're cleaning and you're taking care of everything at home, even if you don't have kids, like, you're still working. Like, I mean, shut up, you know? Like, whatever. It's frustrating. But, okay, so my pros real quick. It's really hard to think of pros right now when I'm so worked up with housing and their stupid shit they're pulling. But pros for me would be probably, like, the biggest thing would be, like, the pride that I have for my husband, like, working so hard and, like, sacrificing so much. Because he does, like, sacrifice a lot, you know, time with his family, time with his nieces and nephews. Like, he doesn't get to see them grow up. So, like, the pride that I have for him is, like, overwhelming. Like, I'm just so proud of, like, the man he's become and, like, the sacrifices he has made to serve his country. Like, I can't. It's, like, so much, you know? Yeah. And then, like, the experiences I've had, you know, getting to go to Virginia Beach and live there and then live here on the island. It's been great. Of course, it has its challenges in its own. But, you know, I think that's, like...
It's going to be kind of everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Like... The whole process is very stressful. Like, the moving is stressful. The whole 9 yards. But there's so much good that still comes out of it. Like, the relationships that you build with people are, like, you know, undeniably strong. You know, even if you, like, grow apart a little bit, it's still, like, you know that person's there for you. So, I just think those things are, like, they sound like just small things, but they're, like, the biggest pros. Like, those things are, you know, what keeps you going. So... Yeah. We did a lot of bitching in this episode.
Yeah, I feel like really bad because it's not bad. Like, I wouldn't give it up for anything, but it is it's very difficult at times.
And you miss your family. You're very lonely a lot of the times. The pay sucks. And so I'm sure, like, a lot of people wonder why they do what they do, but it's like, first of all, like, you know, serving your country. I think that's just so like honorable. Like, I'm very proud. And then, like, the job security. You know, you always have a job. You have retirement.
And even if you get discharged for medical reasons, they still pay you every month as an E5.
Yep.
So you don't have to, like, if you get out right away, you don't have to worry about finding another job.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Like, right away.
Yeah, and, like, the other thing that I, like, the biggest struggle is, like, Chris wants to get out, and it's very hard for me to be like, just do whatever you want, you know, go ahead and get out, because, like, you can get laid off, like, you can not get hired, you know, like, and he just doesn't, he's never had a job on the outside world. Like, he says he has, but, like, not really. Like, he's baled hay and, like, worked on a farm, and not saying that that's not a job, but he didn't do it, like, steadily. Like, he didn't show up every single day at this time, clock out at that time, you know? Like, and he worked as a CNA for, like, a couple months.
Well, and, like, it's also hard because, you want them to take advantage of the free college that they get. Right. And, like, one of my, I don't want to say stipulations, because I don't want to sound like a dependent, but
or
one of
controlling.
Right, exactly, or controlling, but I was like, Bailey, you already dropped out of school one time. Yeah. Take the free college, and then once you're done with school, if you're like, I want to get out of the military, at least you have a degree, because it's so hard to find a job without that.
Yep. I agree.
It is so hard. And I think everyone just assumes that once you get out of the military, they want to go straight to being a police officer or doing something that's still in that field, or like a firefighter or something like that. And that's not always the case. Like, sometimes they just want to get out and just be done with that military life. Like, my dad, when he finally got out of the Army, he works as a, they call them supervisors, but he works at our, it's called Lafayette Venetian Blinds, and it's, they make blinds, and he's a supervisor there. But what that entails is he comes over to, like, the West Coast, and he has clients, and he sells them blinds and stuff like that. A complete 180 from working in the military and being infantry, because infantry, those are the first people to go in and have people shoot at them. Yeah. And so not everyone wants to do that. Bailey, he does want to be a police officer. He wants to have a canine. Yeah. But not everyone wants that. Right. Not everyone wants that.
Right. Definitely.
And I don't think people realize that, like, oh, when you get out of the military, like, you can go into police. No, they still make you do a ton of things. Like, Bailey's going back to school for criminology.
Criminal justice.
Yeah.
Criminal justice.
Yes, thank you. Because he's like, oh, I want to work in the FBI or NCIS. And NCIS for Navy is, if you have the degree, it's pretty easy to get into, because you've already had the Navy background. Right. But not everyone wants to do that. Like, definitely. Chris may want to get his degree and then go back and be a farmer. Like,
this kid would, like, just live off the freaking land if he could.
I would. I love farming.
Me too. But, like, I still want my Starbucks.
Exactly.
So, like, I'm not.
You're like, I want to, like, be still close. My parents, they lived out on the land, but, like, Starbucks is 10 minutes away.
Like, Chris wants to, like, live on the land. Like, he wants to, like, build his own house, make all of his own food, kill all of his own food, grow all of his own food. He wants to be, like, off the grid person. I'm like, listen, I love you, but I don't love you that much. But I need
access to Starbucks.
Yeah, it's like, I need, like, a Target every now and then. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. So, anyways, lots of good, lots of bad with the military. But I just felt like, I don't know why I felt like I needed to do this episode. I feel like people just assume a lot.
I think they do too, and I think it's also harder when you've been in for the military, and I hope I keep the same mindset as I'm in, because I'm pretty sure we're lifers. But as you are a veteran Navy spouse or a veteran military spouse, I think you lose sight of how you used to feel, because you're just so used to it that they kind of had that same mindset where they're like, oh, like, we did all just sign up for this, but it's not. It's like, listen, we all have our struggles. Like, Bailey's mom, she does not do well when Bailey's dad goes on deployment. Yeah. And the very first deployment they had together was when he was active duty, but every duty station he had that was coming up and his orders changed was when his previous command was about to go on deployment. So he never went on deployment until he went National Guard. Oh, wow. And the Air Force, their deployments are only 3 to 4 months long. At least National Guard is.
Damn.
And,
I wish.
Yeah, and I love Bailey's mom. She's a very strong woman. But the very first time he ever went on deployment, Bailey was a junior in high school. And she, I guess, would just stay locked in her room and, like, cry all the time and get mad because Bailey would be over at his girlfriend's house. But Bailey's like, you're not even, like, hanging out with me. Like, why would I stay here? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And then when Bailey went, it was his first year here. Bailey's dad went back on a deployment that following summer, so 2018. And she was a little bit better, but not as, like, but she still cried a lot. She did actually go out on weekends and hang out with her friends, but
that's good.
Caden, Bailey's little brother, had to stay home all the time. Or didn't have to, but felt like he needed to. And then Caden got into a bunch of trouble.
Yikes.
But Bailey's dad came back. Well,
right.
I think next summer, when Bailey comes back, his dad gets deployed again.
Oh, no.
But I've always been interested to see because of how it's going to work. Because, not that Renee's ever been rude to me about things, but I think she just expected me to not cry all the time. Like, be like, all right. But she does the same thing.
Oh, man. Dude, the first time that, when Chris went away to boot camp, his family drove me up to, where did we go? Like Des Moines or something like that to drop Chris off.
I cried for hours.
Days. Hyperventilated in the car. Like, I was making sounds like, I'm like, they were like, are you okay back there? And like, I had only known his family for like 2 months. I was like, oh my God, this is so awkward. Pull it together. Sarah, pull it together. But I could not. I could not.
It was really sad. Like,
they're not criers either.
No. So Bailey's family,
so it was like really awkward.
They're
I was
emotional.
like the only one crying, and I think his mom had tears in his eyes a little bit, but like, I think like they kind of hide that. Maybe like I don't know if they do or not.
Bailey's parents are emotional.
I don't see it anyways, so it's very interesting.
They were emotional too, which made me feel better because his mom and I were both like sobbing into each other's arms as he takes off on the plane. But I stayed the night there because I was waiting for him to land and then for me to get my last phone call with him. And I cried myself to sleep on their couch until he called, and then I talked to him, and then I cried, and I had to work the next day, so I drove all the way back, which it was an hour and 20-minute drive, went to work, and I just cried. And all my friends knew I had work, so they came in to see me, and every time a new one came in, I was just like bawling my eyes out, and I cried pretty much every day he was gone in boot camp, and I do think, even though he was only 3 hours away from me at boot camp, I do think boot camp was tougher than deployment. Strictly on, because I couldn't talk to him as much as I could on deployment. Yep. And it was like, I was only 3 hours away from him, and I'm like, I am so close to you, but I can't see you, and I can't talk to you. So, like, on that aspect, like, I did cry way more with him being in boot camp than I did on deployment. But I also think when they've done a certain amount of detachments, at first when they leave, you just feel like it's a detachment, like, there's nothing different, and then you hit about, like, the halfway mark, and you're like, shit. Oh my God. This is not a detachment. And you just like, you don't know how to contain that. Because the last half is when I think I cried the most, was when he was gone.
Like the first few days, I'm always in like
shock.
A fog. Yeah. Like I'm numb. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. I cry. And then after that, I kind of get over it a little bit. And like I get upset at like the anniversaries and the birthdays and all that kind of stuff he misses. And like the moments that like I wish he was there, like, that he's missing out on. Like, that makes me, sad and emotional. But, for the most part, like, the last deployment, I went home, and it was great because I stayed super busy, like, lashing and hanging out with my nephew and
that's
my nieces.
I was working for Payless, and then we closed. And so after we closed, I think it was 3 or 4 days after, I went to Indiana, hung out with my family, stayed a month longer than what I had been planning.
Oh, girl,
flew my dog out. Like,
so I went home in April, a week earlier than what I had planned. And then I was, like, supposed to leave in, like, June, and I stayed all the way until September.
Yeah, and then I came back.
I was like, whoops.
Yeah, so I stayed busy. My brother had 4-H, and we had a family vacation, and my grandma, being diabetic, she can't really tell now since she's had it for so long when her blood sugar is about to drop. So I was helping out with my cousins and my grandma and just helping take care of my family. And then I came back July 30th. That's the last day of July 31st. The last day of July. And then we started the process of buying a house.
Right.
And then closed on my house like a couple days after my birthday when my grandparents were here, and then moved in. And then the 2 weeks between after moving in and with Bailey coming home. Yeah. And so I just kept myself so freaking busy. Yeah. Because, which I bought a house because it was cheaper to buy a house than it was to rent, and I was tired of base housing.
Yeah.
And so bought my house, and Bailey came home, and then Bailey left again because he had to go to senior school, but it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I remember, like, just booking, like, lash appointments, like, 5 a.m. all the way until 10 o'clock at night.
Because you don't want to think about it.
Yeah, just stayed busy. And by the time I got done, I was so exhausted, I just went home and passed out and did it the next day.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to, like, it's bad, but, like, you don't want to allow yourself to feel too much.
You don't, because as soon as you start to feel, like...
It's just a downward spiral.
Yeah, for me, it was, like, if I started to feel, like, sad and cry, I would cry off and on for the whole day.
Yeah.
And I'd get this, like, massive headache, and it just, like, it wasn't
not a good feeling.
No, so
Staying busy, like, when they say that, it's, like, legit.
Yeah, you have to, and that's my biggest fear for when... This is going to be the first ever... When he goes on deployment in October, this is going to be the very first time that we've never spent any holiday together. He's usually home for, like, some sort of holiday. But they're normally home for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Gone. Going to be gone. And, like, that's the thing that I'm, like, really sad for. And I'm not looking forward to. And I'm just hoping skates right on by because it's the holidays. I'm hoping it goes fast as normal.
Well, you know what? You can just get on a space day and come to me and Chris.
Okay. Like, hey, sorry, Maurice's. I gotta, like, take a pause. Gotta go. Can't do this anymore.
I'll be back. But, anyways, military life, the good, the bad, the ugly. You guys kind of get the picture. I think there's just, like, so many, like, misconceptions with it. So, hopefully we kind of put your mind at ease to it. It's like, if you have any questions, feel free to message us. I just, like, I think it's important to kind of, like, share these things. That way people kind of get, like, oh, yeah, it's not all rainbows and butterflies and these adorable homecoming deployments, which are, like, the nerves you feel.
Well, and, like, I think, like, the thing about homecoming is, like, you haven't seen this person in half a year.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so awkward.
It was so
Even though,
awkward.
like, you've lived with them before and for, like, I mean...
But you've come to do your own thing.
Yes.
Like, you've come to do, like, your nightly routine on your own. And now you have to, like, merge with someone who's completely changed up their routine, too.
Yeah, and
they've
changed
They've
themselves.
Yeah. Like, Bailey is way nicer. Not saying he was mean in the beginning, but, like, there was, before deployment, there was, like, after, like, when I knew Bailey in college, and he was, like, this cuddly, like, golden retriever type guy, this big old teddy bear, and then boot camp to... pre-deployment, he was just like this, like, I don't want to cuddle with you kind of dude, and then that's not how he actually sounds. And then now after deployment, like, he's just so glad to be home that, like, I don't even have to ask to cuddle. He's like, why are you over here? Like, there's just this big shift, and for me, it was kind of like, I'm so used to the guy who doesn't want to cuddle, that when he wants to cuddle with me, I just, like, I'm like, no, like, I'm over here, you come to me. And, like, he tries to give me kisses all the time. And they definitely change in their own ways. Yeah. And it's insane. And, like, now he's picked up on sayings. Like, he's like, whatever, dude. And I'm like, stop with that voice. Like,
that's so funny.
You're not, please don't. And now he says, he says don't instead of didn't.
Why?
Like, I don't do it. And I'm like, no. I didn't do it.
That's so
I'm not
funny.
Doing it. Like, I have to, like, go through. And, like, I have to re-teach him English.
That's what
and
Chris
grammar.
does. Oh, my gosh. I swear. They are so funny.
I'm like, did you just lose English on your, like, on deployment? You're in Italy for so long that, like,
he might have got it from Chris because, like, that's the way Chris talks sometimes. I'm just like, boy.
Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing with your life? But, yeah. So, anyways. Okay. Good talk. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're not going to go on another squirrel chase again because we're done. We're done. We're done talking. We could talk for hours probably, but you know, I really don't know about affirmations for this episode. What would you, let's look up some military affirmations and see. Okay.
I'm going to plug my Instagram.
You're going to what?
Plug my Instagram. You guys can follow me on Insta at p.kennedy with 2 Y's at the end. And then my Facebook is just Peyton, Peyton, Kennedy. I do post a lot about self-love, like the previous episode. But I also do a lot for the company I work for and deals like that. So give me a follow. I'm also really cute.
Yes, you are really cute. Shameless plug there. I love that was perfect. I wasn't sure if you wanted like people to like, you know.
Yeah, in case they have questions.
Yeah,
want to know what so more things are like.
So I actually have let's see if I can find it here. I'm trying to find some military affirmations. Okay, so let's see what we can find here. Okay, so for today, instead of saying an affirmation, we're just going to say a little prayer over the military. So here it goes. Father God, thank you for the free country in which we live. Thank you for the abundant natural resources and an amazing standard of living. Lord, thank you for the men and women in uniform who risk life and limb to preserve our way of life and our freedom to worship you. Today, Father, please be with each soldier, sailor, airman, Marines, guardsmen as they serve. Please look after their families and keep them safe. Show them your grace and provision in their daily lives. Bless the brave who protect the free so that they may reap the rewards of a job well done when their time in service is over. Renew the respect for our service members across the United States of America, and please bless our nation. Thank you again for all of our many blessings. In Jesus' holy name, amen. Okay, I think that was a super cute prayer. All right, we're going to end it here. Thanks for coming on, Peyton.
Thanks for having me again.
All things military. It's been super fun bitching. I mean, who doesn't
Getting
love to bitch? Yes, yeah. Just kind of venting. All right. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.